Hello, I'm Peter Robinson and I'm a professor of English at the University of Saskatchewan. And if you are watching this, it's because you are about to go and see the production of Julius Caesar in the Shakespeare in the Saskatchewan Festival. So, my aim is to give you some ways to think about this play before you go to see it and to help you perhaps appreciate what goes on and what happens in the play. And for me, there is always one question I ask myself when I'm about to see a Shakespeare play, even a play I know well, and that is, what was in Shakespeare's head when he wrote this play? What was his concern? Why did he write this play? Why did he choose to write this play right then at this time? And there are two questions I ask myself when I'm trying to seek an answer. Of course, we can't actually resurrect Shakespeare and bring him here and ask him the questions. And Shakespeare himself left absolutely nothing behind in the form of introductions, statements, letters, interviews, whatever. Nothing at all. So we have to figure out what we can from what we do know. So the first thing that can help us is asking, what did Shakespeare write immediately before this play? What did he write immediately after this play? In the case of Julius Caesar, this is particularly instructive because the play that Shakespeare wrote immediately before Julius Caesar was Henry V. The play he wrote immediately after Julius Caesar was Hamlet, the best known of all Shakespeare plays. So simply saying those three gives you a huge clue. All three are about power, its uses, its abuses. What happens to the person who holds power? What are the effects of that person's actions on others? And if the person is a tyrant, is usurping power, using power in ways that it should not be used, what is the duty of others about him? What should other people do? Should they be like Hamlet and oppose by any means the actions of his uncle Claudius in taking the throne, or the actions of Cassius and Brutus in Julius Caesar? An exception appears to be the Henry V, because Henry V, of course, is a great hero, but Henry V's actions also cost lives, many lives, and it's possible to see the play, and many productions do this, as an anti-war play. In any case, all three plays, I think, underline Shakespeare's deep skepticism about authority, and also a deep fear, which I don't think just runs in Shakespeare, but throughout his age, of what a king can do, or what authority can do. Which brings me to the second element of trying to understand what was in Shakespeare's head, which is what was going on in England in 1599, which might give us a clue as to what Shakespeare was thinking of. What was happening in England in 1599 is, one book can centre about just one person, one name only, Queen Elizabeth, Elizabeth I. In 1599, she had been on the throne for more than 40 years. She was in her fifth decade as Queen of England. She became queen as a young woman of 25. By 1599, she was 66. And of course, we all remember this as a glorious and extraordinary period of English history, defeat of the Spanish Armada, and of course the rise of Shakespeare, of drama in England at the time and culture broadly, and the economic affluence that her stability brought to the whole of England. But by 1599, there were many warning signs about. One, the politics of the period was dominated by the failure of a war. Any contemporary relevance there about wars that don't end well or fail to end at all? Essex, Queen Elizabeth's favourite, had gone to Ireland to try to bring the Irish to heel, to try and bring them into the English court, to accept English rule. And it was a resounding failure, as so many attempts by the British to control Ireland were. Essex came back to England without permission. This caused his arrest. It caused huge upheaval in the court. People had to take sides, for Essex, against Essex, for the Queen, against the Queen, etc. And it appeared that we could be plunged back into the anarchy that had marked the decades before Elizabeth's success and before she came to the throne. So there was that concern. And of course, there was also a huge uncertainty about the succession. Who would be king or who would be queen? Who would rule England after Elizabeth? At the 1599, her successor was her cousin, twice removed, James of Scotland, who eventually did, of course, succeed her. But he was an unknown figure, and no one knew how that would work out. So we can see these political concerns so dominant behind the events and behind the actions of all three players, and especially, in this case, Julius Caesar. And the focus of Julius Caesar, of course, is not just on Julius Caesar, who is dead pretty early in the play, but in fact on the other people affected by Julius Caesar, by Brutus, notably Brutus, Cassius, and Mark Antony. So one way to look at this is how, if you are confronted with tyrannical actions, as most certainly Julius Caesar was presenting to the people, how do you react? What happens when you react? Who is in control? Of course, it turns out no one is in control. We find people like Cinna murdered simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's a warning here of the anarchy that's let loose by a dramatic, even unnecessary action such as that of the murder of Caesar in the Rotunda. So this is a good way to look, I think, to start off looking at Julius Caesar. How is power used? And of course, along the way, it's not just that this is a play about political events. As always with Shakespeare, he chooses characters to carry the action, and he gives them sort of remarkable speeches to make, remarkable things to say to each other. Most powerfully, of course, and memorably in Julius Caesar, Mark Antony's famous "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears" speech, and the way that speech turns the whole play around. So, as always with Shakespeare, go, sit down, relax, enjoy. Don't think too much about it, just enjoy the play. And afterwards, if you find yourself thinking about the production, what it says, how it might be relevant to the period we're living through now, which of course has many similarities to the London of 1599, I'll let you fill in those spaces for yourself. All of these can contribute to a good experience of the play, which I'm sure you will find, as always with Shakespeare in the Saskatchewan, presented with great drama, great energy, and great dramatic effect. Enjoy. I may see you when I come to see Julius Caesar myself later this summer at the show. In the meantime, have a good day and enjoy your production. Goodbye.